Yo guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video today we're going to be testing out 4 different graphics cards in Fortnite on performance mode, starting from very old and working our way up to more modern cards. Do you need an expensive graphics card to be playing Fortnite on performance mode, or can you save some money while still getting the same FPS? Let's find out in this video. So the graphics cards we chose for this video all ranged from around 9 years ago to the last 2 years. First we have the GTX 1060 6GB, which was released in July 2016. We then have the RTX 2070, which released in October 2018. Next we had the RTX 3060, which was released in February 2021. And for the last card we have the RTX 4070, which was released in April 2023. Now on screen you will see the specs for the PC we'll be using. We went with this PC to try create the biggest GPU bottleneck we could. So for our settings we played at 1080p performance mode, all low settings. This will give us the maximum FPS possible. We also made sure to keep the Nvida control panel settings the exact same, and we used the exact same driver across all graphics cards, which the version was 566.36. Also, we was recording using OBS, but we decided to use the video encoder software X264, which will utilise our CPU more. We done this to prevent too many variables, because if we were using the GPU to do the recording as well, this could affect the performance and the benchmarks. But now let's take a look at the benchmarks for this video. So honestly, straight away the results shocked me. As you can see from the video, the difference between the GTX 1060 and the RTX 4070 is huge, even in performance mode. Now I think the only reason for this is because of our CPU, and I'll explain what I mean after the benchmarks. As you can see, the difference between the 1060 and 2070 is around 100 FPS, and even between the 2070 and 3060 there is around a 60 FPS difference, which surprised me because technically speaking these cards perform pretty much on par except within ray tracing. But maybe because we're using the 12GB version of the 3060, that's helping the FPS a bit. In this video I am focusing more on average FPS rather than 1% lows. Why? Because I honestly think the 1% lows on Fortnite performance mode are always all over the place. I've heard before that they're much worse on AMD compared to Intel. However, out the box AMD seems to have much better average FPS. As you can also see, the 1% lows for the 3060 and 4070 seem to be significantly worse. Why? Well, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe because of the fact lower end cards are being utilised more, that's causing them to have improved 1% lows. I'm not sure. Let me know in the comments what you think is causing this. But from this benchmark, it's clear to me that the GPU does matter. But I think there's exceptions to this. So let me try explain. So now for my verdict. So, as I've said to many viewers before, anything above a 3060 is not worth it for performance mode. But this video proves me wrong, right? Well, I think it strongly depends on the CPU you have. As I've shown from previous videos using the 5700X3D, when pairing that CPU with a 2070, 3060 and a 4070, the benchmark stats will pretty much equal. So even though a 5700X3D is a good CPU nonetheless, it seems the faster the CPU, the more it will need a solid graphics card to maximise performance. When I purchased my 5800X3D last year, I was swapping out a 3700X and a GTX 1080, ready to install the 5800X3D and RTX 4070. But the GPU arrived first, so I decided to see how much more FPS I got with the 4070 paired with a Ryzen 7 3700X. And guess what? The FPS was exactly the same. So what this tells us is if the CPU is older / or less powerful, let's say a low to mid-end CPU, then upgrading your graphics card won't make much of a difference, unless maybe if you have a GT 1030. The same results are shown from previous benchmarks I done last year with a Ryzen 5 5600, where we were seeing over 300 FPS. Now of course, in Fortnite Chapter 6, I'm unable to get over 280 FPS with a 5600, even paired with a 3060. So unfortunately the performance is definitely worse now compared to Chapter 5. But either way, let me try and break down what I'm trying to say. In the benchmarks, the GTX 1060 was having to work as hard as it could to try keep up with a 9800 X3D. Because the 9800 X3D was waiting for the graphics card to quote unquote catch up, let's say, the CPU was hardly having to break a sweat whilst the graphics card was struggling to keep up, hence the high GPU usage. Now of course the 9800 X3D is currently the best CPU on the market, and not everyone can afford one. And not only that, but if you can afford a £500 CPU, then surely you must be able to buy a somewhat decent GPU to pair it with. I think anything higher than a 4070 will yield lower performance gain compared to, let's say, a 3060 to 4070. But I think the difference between a 4070 and a 4090 paired with a 9800 X3D in performance mode would be less than 10%, but without testing I can't be sure. Of course, in any games that are GPU intensive, the 4070 will be the bottleneck, most definitely. So my overall verdict is, the better the CPU, the better the GPU needs to be able to keep up and not cause a major bottleneck. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know if I should do this again but with a mid-range CPU, maybe a Ryzen 5000 series CPU like 5600. Let me know in the comments. Anyway, I'll catch you in the next one.